very warm welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us on this edition of K24 Inside Business, the last word in business. My name is Sarah Adam. Later in the hour, we'll have a discussion that will focus on power and also how the power tariffs can go down to ensure ease of business. We'll have the MD for Ketraco to talk about that. But for now, let's take a look at how the shilling is performing against other major currencies and also how the shares are performing at the bourse in our market watch. Now to our top business story, the government will begin hiring civil servants on contract basis from 1st July 2019 in a bid to trim the wage bill and boost productivity. The Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, ISPAC, has backed the plan by the Public Service Commission to employ civil servants on a 3-year contract. Linda Koskei with this report.
The government has announced plans to hire civil servants on a contractual basis that will expire after 3 years and reviewed based on performance. Speaking while unveiling the proposal, Public Service Commission Chairperson Stephen Kirogo said the move will force civil servants working at different government agencies to put in more efforts and become more productive at work. Further, this will also help the country reduce the wastage of resources going to non-productive personnel. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich indicated in his 2019-2020 budget statement on Thursday last week that the government has embarked on a process of validating some 27,000 pensioners whose monthly dues will cost Exchequer 86 billion shillings in the current financial year, up to 25 billion shillings in 2008-2009 fiscal year. Other measures instituted by the National Treasury include the restriction of public service hiring and the cleaning up of the payroll to get rid of ghost workers. Linda Koskei, K24 Inside Business.
Thank you very much, Linda Koskei. On to devastating news where fishermen along the Kilifi shoreline are starving after failing to attend their fishing expedition following a rough tide season that was predicted by Meteorological Department. According to the fishermen, they have already spent 2 months without venturing into the Indian Ocean for their fishing activities. Marcy Milanoi tells us more.
Fakir Sharif is a fisherman at Vidasini Beach in Kilifi. He says it has not been easy for them and they're facing difficult moments with their children, failing to go to school due to lack of funds, as fishing was the only source of revenue.
Kama na huu muda yenye tuko nao hatujui ni lini, ni siku ngapi bahari itatulia. Sasa venye tunakaa ni kiasi cha kwamba hatuwezi tukavumilia kuishi na njaa tukiambiwa subirini wavuvi.
According to the fishermen, the season shall take up to September this year, a situation that is expected to affect their businesses and may even lead to them failing to meet the family's needs.
Lengo na madhumuni tunaomba ikiwa tunaweza kusubiria kweli, lakini kuna mahitaji ni tunapata kwa ule muda wa kusubiria, kwa sababu tukisema tusubirie baadaye tutakuwa wengi watakuwa ni waizi, wengi watakuwa wafanya uhalifu tofauti kwa sababu hawana njia nyingine yenyewe wanapata mahitaji.
The fishermen, however, met with Kilifi North Member of Parliament Owen Baya, where they raised their concerns.
Tumeona kwamba hawa wavuvi wa pwani hawapewi nafasi ya kuwa cushion katika maisha yao katika mambo ya uvuvi. Kwa sasa mambo yao ni magumu sana. Na vile bajeti imesomwa, tungefikiria pengine katika ile bajeti serikali ingekuwa imefikiria kuweka pesa ambazo zina cushion hawa wavuvi.
The sector players here say they are surprised to hear that the country was currently focusing on blue economy, whose key stakeholders are currently suffering. The fishermen say they were not engaged in any way in the blue economy movement, with most of the sessions being done in hotels.
Mlengo halisi hajaweza kufikiwa. Kwa sababu mlengo halisi hapa ni mvuvi, ni wachuuzi. Wao ndio watakana masala kama haya ya uvuvi waweze kuuliziwa. Je, masala samaki yatakuwa namna gani? Je, wale wachuuzi watasupply namna gani samaki? Je, kutakuwa na soko la kitaifa kuhusiana la kimataifa kuhusiana na samaki wetu ambao wanashikwa? Mpaka sasa bado.
The stakeholders have raised concerns of the government's commitment to the blue economy as compared to other sectors such as tea, where tea farmers, for instance, in Kericho, are assisted with loans to sustain them when the season is down, but wondered how fishermen are left to fend for themselves. The fishermen are now calling upon the Blue Economy Secretariat to come down to the grassroots and face the real issues of the sector so as to deliberate on tangible issues facing the economy. Masi Milanoi, K24, Inside Business.
Now let's cross over to Mombasa, where NEMA is having a crackdown on businesses that are still using plastic bags. We are currently joined by our reporter Fred Kai. Good afternoon, Kai. And if you can tell me, how many traders have been caught using these bags?
Shukrani sana Sara, na ni kweli ulivyosema ni kwamba shirika la NEMA basi liko katika soko hili la Kongowea na limeweza kuanza crackdown hii na kuweza kushika baadhi tu ya wafanyabiashara katika soko hili ambao walikuwa bado wanaweza kutumia mifuko ile ya plastiki ambayo iliweza kuharamishwa katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na moja kwa moja basi tutaweza kujiunga naye mkurugenzi mkuu wa NEMA katika kaunti ya Mombasa aweze tu kutuambia fika ni watu wangapi wameweza kuwashika na iwapo basi hatua zipi za kisheria zitaweza kuchukuliwa kwa wao ambao wameweza kushikwa. Pengine tuweze kuanza na majina yako, ni nani, na utuambie tu ni watu wangapi ambao wameweza kuwashika leo?
Leo tumeshika watu 10 kutoka katika soko la Kongowea ya Mombasa.
Na pengine zoezi hili mbona umeamua kufika hapa hii leo?
Ni kwa sababu hii wakati tulikuwa tumehalalisha maneno ya utumiaji wa makaratasi ya plastiki katika soko zetu za Mombasa, watu walikuwa wametii sheria. Lakini hivi majuzi tukapata intelligence information na kupitia uchunguzi wetu tukapata kwamba watu wameanza tena kutumia mifuko ya plastiki sana Kongowea la Kongowea, soko la Kongowea.
Na pengine kwa sasa wale watu ambao wameweza kushika ni wangapi na hatua zipi ambazo unapanga kuzichukua?
Tumeshika kwa wakati huo watu 10 na sasa hivi wanapelekwa kotini ndio washtakiwe.
Na pengine unaweza kuambia nini Wakenya ambao wanaendeleza matumizi ya hii mifuko ya plastiki?
Tunaomba wananchi vile walikuwa wametii sheria waache kutumia mifuko ya plastiki, waache kuuza kwa wale wanauza mifuko ya plastiki. Manake Kenya mzima tuko na hii operation, watu watashikwa na watashtakiwa.
Na vile kulikuwa na utata kati ni mifuko ipi ambayo inafaa kutumika. Manake tumeweza kuona kwamba kuna ile mifuko ya plastic na kuna zile ambazo zinaitwa woven bags. Pengine kwa sasa huo mkanganyiko umeweza kuwafikia vipi?
Kwa wakati huu ile imepigwa marufuku ni ile ya plastiki na ni woven bags inaweza tumika kwa wakati huu.
Shukrani sana kwa muda wako. Naam Sara, umeweza kusikia kutoka kwa County Director wa NEMA anaitwa Steven Wambua, na ameweza kusema kwamba wale ambao wameweza kushikwa katika soko hili basi wataweza kufikishwa mahakamani na kuweza kushtakiwa kwa kutumia mifuko hii ambayo imeweza kuharamishwa kutoka nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na kutoka hapa na kuregesha kwa studio. Sara.
Thank you very much, Fred Kai, for that update. We'll have a comprehensive update later in our subsequent bulletin. But for now, let's move on, where Kenya's trade deficit narrowed by 4% in the first quarter of the year to 283.73 billion from 296.56 billion over the same period a year ago. Data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicate decline in both exports and imports over the review period, but imports dropped with a bigger margin. Data shows Kenya's imports dropped to 421.24 billion in the first quarter, down from 438.46 billion over a similar period in 2018. This comes as Netherlands beat Uganda and Pakistan in the ranking of the top buyers of Kenyan goods over the quarter. The European country imported 14.4 billion worth of Kenyan goods in the first 3 months of the year, against Uganda 13.2 billion and Pakistan 12.99 billion. Imports from China dropped to a 3-year low, cutting the trade deficit for the first time since 2016. Moving on, Kenya is set to benefit from a regional World Bank-supported project following the injection of 29.9 billion shillings into technical and vocational education and training. The Kenyan Coast National Polytechnic is among projects that will cover share of the billions to shore up marine transport, with Meru National Polytechnic and Kenya Institute of Highways and Building Technology also being financed to build infrastructure. Ben Kirira reports.
Eastern Africa Skills for Transformation and Regional Integration Project will be financed by the World Bank in a bid to support development of highly specialized TVET programs, as well as industry-recognized short-term certificate-level training. Minister of State for Science and Higher Education Abdiwasa Abdillahi unveiled the program in Addis Ababa, saying, TVETs have great significance in Eastern Africa countries. The funding is directed towards regional priority sectors in transport, energy, manufacturing and ICT. Other beneficiaries include Kenyan Geothermal Institute and Kisumu National Polytechnic, which will receive funds to help enhance skills in geothermal and textile manufacturing, respectively. This is part of an International Development Association loan issued to Eastern Africa Skills for Transformation and Regional Integration Project. Ben Kirira, K24 Business.
Thank you very much, Ben Kirira. Now today, the CBK governor, that is Patrick Njoroge, had a press briefing concerning the new currency. Now he said the recalibration of various machines used by banks and other institutions, and also verification of machines and ATM is ongoing. Most verifications of machines have been completed, while ATMs are ongoing. Training of tellers also has happened and is still ongoing. Now, the CBK governor has also said they have been in touch with other central banks, including ESC, but also in the rest of Africa and beyond. He has also said they have applied due diligence on any flows ongoing and out of the country also, and he has also mentioned there's been cooperation within ESC. There's also a public campaign on new generation currency, which is continuing, and posters are also available. Now, that has been the press briefing that has been ongoing. Patrick Governor Njoroge has mainly outlined some of those issues. Now, moving on, social media giant Facebook has unveiled its plan to launch a new digital currency called Libra next year. The new currency will enable people to make payments on apps as well as on messaging services such as WhatsApp. According to Facebook, firms such as Uber and Visa are also likely to accept it in future. Marcy Milano tells us more.
Been concerns about how people's money and data will be protected, as well as over the potential volatility of the currency. Facebook said Libra will be independently managed and backed by real assets, and that paying with it will be as easy as texting. It is the latest foray by a tech giant into the payment sector after Google Pay, Apple Pay and Samsung Pay, although none of these services are based on a cryptocurrency. According to Facebook, from next year, you will be able to buy Libra via its platforms and store it in a digital wallet called Calibra. You can then send your Libra to other users. It is said as easily and instant as you might send a text message. The social media giant also targets to offer additional services for people and businesses, such as paying bills with a push of a button, buying a cup of coffee with the scan of a code, or riding a local public transit without needing to carry cash or a metro pass. The transactions will be at low to no cost, although the firm is expected to take a small commission on payment made through its platform. Marcy Milano, K24 Inside Business.
Moving on, the construction of the transnational highway between Kenya and Tanzania will begin early next year, according to the financier. Gabriel Negatu, East African Director General of the African Development Bank, said in Nairobi that the funding for the 460-kilometer road should be approved in September. Dennis Mwendwa tells us more.
The second edition of the African Investment Forum is scheduled to take place from November 11th to 13th in South Africa. Gabriel Negatu, East African Director General of the African Development Bank, said the Kenya-Tanzania Transnational Highway is expected to cost 75.1 billion shillings. The transnational highway is among the infrastructure projects being prioritized by the East African community. AFDB will finance 70% of the coastal highway, while the governments of Kenya and Tanzania will cover the remaining 30%. Meanwhile, the proposed Lanet Airport construction documentation is in its final stage, and a tender will be awarded by August this year. The Kenya Airports Authority CEO Johnny Anderson said Nakuru is a very critical area in the aviation industry. Thus, the need for an airport.
We believe that this is really an important area of Kenya, and specifically when we're talking about the horticultural production with the flowers. And as I always say when I talk to my friends, from Europe, every time you give your wife a rose, it's with love from Nakuru. And that's all over Europe. And that tells you how important this area is when it comes to export.
According to the proposed plan, the upgrade of the Lanet airstrip is set to be done in 2 phases. Phase 1 will include the upgrade of the existing 1.7-kilometer airstrip to meet the international standards and construction of the terminal buildings. Phase 2 will be an extension of Phase 1 to allow the airport to accommodate much larger aircraft and might include compensation of neighboring residents whose land may be acquired for the expansion. Dennis Mwendwa, K24 Business.
Local and international agricultural experts have decried over misuse of pesticide and herbicide and fertilizers by small-scale farmers. That has been brought about by lack of extension service. Experts say there is need for reintroduction of a vibrant extension service system in the country with a view to enlightening farmers on new farming techniques and more so how to use the chemicals. Linda Koskei tells us more.
Players in the agricultural sector have raised concerns of the absence of the agricultural extension workers in Kenya who are supposed to train farmers on the use of pesticides and application of fertilizer, which they say has greatly affected production. The extension workers are supposed to provide advisory services to farmers on the application of scientific research and new knowledge to agricultural practices through farmer education. According to Ratemo Micheka from the University of Nairobi, government stopped hiring extension services in early 90s after the introduction of structural adjustment program by the World Bank and International Monetary Fund IMF. This led to desperation of small-scale farmers as they were left at the mercy of unscrupulous agro dealers who advise them based on products they have stocked. If farmers are educated well, they stand a better chance to differentiate adulterated fertilizer and chemicals and thus increase food production. Linda Koskei, K24 Business.
Moving on, Kenya Aviation Workers Union have endorsed the proposed recommendation by the National Assembly Transport Committee to nationalize Kenya Airways, saying the move will revive the airline. Carrier KAU chairperson Moses Ndiama called on Parliament to expedite the legislation process of making KQ a state corporation, saying as it is critical for its survival. Jimmy Mbogo has more details on this and other stories making headlines in the corporate scene.
In the proposed recommendation by the National Assembly Transport Committee to make Kenya Airways a state corporation, the committee also assures the aviation workers of retaining jobs and harmonizing the terms of service and remunerations under the aviation holding company, including a review of the existing collective bargaining agreements. These proposals have been received well by the Kenya Aviation Workers Union, whom today have endorsed the proposed recommendation, saying it will resuscitate KQ. Elsewhere, the war against illicit trade and importation of contraband goods in the country has gone a notch higher following the installation of 11 state-of-the-art radiation portal monitors and an ultra-modern system server at the port of Mombasa, supported by the United States government. In the Joint Security Mission, the U.S. has also built a central alarm station and provided portal monitors for immediate analysis and detection of any radiological or nuclear materials at the facility. The U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Karl Makata, said the United States government is keen to work hand in hand with Kenya to secure her borders through sharing of such technologies and expertise. Elsewhere, the Kenya Electricity Generating Company, KenGen PLC, has set up an energy research and development laboratory in Tana to test new ideas in a cost-effective manner that will further help the company produce more power at a cheaper cost. According to KenGen Managing Director and CEO Rebecca Miano, the company is aware of the dynamic operating environment which requires the institution to make informed decisions to help reduce the cost of power in the country. Energy Cabinet Secretary Charles Keter, who was also in attendance, challenged the power producer KenGen to develop grid and off-grid solutions and particularly focus on local biogas solutions for the market. Jimmy Bogo, K24 Business.
Moving on, the Ministry of Energy has cut its generation target by 2,800 megawatts amid growing demand-raised concerns for the 2030 electricity consumption level. Energy Secretary Charles Keter said the ministry had taken a step in line with the demand forecast. The ministry had initially indicated Kenya needed to generate additionally 10,000 megawatts to accommodate the Vision 2030 flagship project. Keter, who was attending the 7th Global Innovation Seminar organized by the Kenya Electricity Generation Company, said the ministry was engaging other related stakeholders to boost energy usage by large industries to ensure the target to connect all households by 2022 remains sustainable. The 126 billion power transmission line nearing completion to link Kenya to its northern neighbor, Ethiopia, for regional electricity. Kenya is set to import cheaper electricity from hydroelectric projects in Ethiopia while setting stage for inter-regional trade in energy. The 1,045-kilometer line is the longest in Eastern Central Africa. Construction is complete on the Ethiopia side, being shorter, while Kenya's side is over 90% complete and is expected to go live early next year. Joining us to discuss this is Fernandes Barasa, MD Ketraco. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. How far is the Kenya-Ethiopia line, and will it be a relief to Kenyans when it comes to cost of power?
Thank you very much. With regards to the construction process of the Ethiopia-Kenya line, at the moment we are doing a 90% completion. There are actually 4 components, 3 lots for the transmission line, where we have already completed 2 lots. There's 1 lot that is remaining, where the works which are outstanding will be done by November for the transmission line. And then we have now the converter station, which the completion will be done by December. Then we have around 4 months of commissioning. So what we believe is by April next year, this interconnector will be on board. And we already have a power purchase agreement where our local utility here, Kenya Power, has signed a PPA with our counterparts in Ethiopia, basically to buy 400 megawatts of power. Well, that will be one of the ways of addressing the challenges of cost. But there are many other opportunities, of course, which will be provided by the interconnector because to facilitate power trade. Of course, right now Ethiopia is doing some bit of rationing. So once this interconnector is ready, they may also import from Kenya the geothermal power. So the interconnector will basically be a medium for facilitating regional power trades between the neighboring countries.
All right. And
yes.
Why has it delayed?
Well, the delay was occasioned by the delay of the converter station, where one of the consortium partners, Islux from Spain, ran into problem last year. So the main contractor had to get another partner. So one of the issues which, of course, delayed is because the converter station, which is now almost 60% done, the main contractor, of course, now had to progress without the fellow went bankrupt. But so far, I think we have done very well on the 600-kilometer line, where, as I said, construction will be done by November for the T line, and then now we have the converter station commissioning happening for the next 4 months.
All right. So by
Yes.
April, Kenyans should be able to enjoy cheap power.
Well, I know the issue of cheap power is a big conversation because when you look at the tariff structure, actually 70% of the tariff costs is from generation. So one thing I know our counterparts in Kenya are doing is to have more renewable sources of power in the grid. As you may be aware, geothermal, of course, is coming on board very steadily. We have hydro, which is of course the cheapest. We have wind that of course we brought on board last year, then solar. So one of the ways of addressing the cost of power is by investing more in generation, which of course, as I said earlier, accounts for 70% of the cost of power. I know we have our bit in transmission. By reducing transmission losses, definitely also going to address the cost of power, because once we invest in more high voltage lines like the 400 kilovolts, definitely transmission losses will be reduced from around 5% to 3%, which again will have a positive impact on reducing the cost of power. Another issue, of course, is addressing issues of thermals. Of course, once our transmission lines come on board, definitely we may retire some of the expensive thermal generators, which are of course subsidized by government. So that again will go a long way in reducing the cost of power.
Okay, and
yes.
There are concerns also which have been raised by experts in the energy sector saying KETRACO has not put up enough infrastructure for the transmission, meaning that we have a lot of energy but we do not have transmission line. As KETRACO, what can you say about this?
Well, I know for the numbers, so far we have installed capacity of 2,712 megawatts, vis-a-vis a demand of 1,800 megawatts. What is happening here is a situation of suppressed demand, where we have, for example, demand in the western region of this country, and yet we don't have transmission lines. Now, what we are doing at the moment is we have the Olkaria-Lesos-Kisumu. It's a 300-kilometer line, of course, being funded by JICA. Once this line is completed, we are hoping by end of the year or early next year, February, Olkaria-Lesos-Kisumu will be done. So this line will be able to evacuate almost 400 megawatts of geothermal power to the western region. So that will address the demand issue. Another alternative line, which of course we are also fast tracking, is the Olkaria-Narok. There's something called N-1 in transmission, where we always have alternatives. So Olkaria-Lesos will have an alternative line from Olkaria-Narok, which again will provide the N-1 component. And of course, there are many other initiatives which are going to address demand. For example, the special economic zones, which are coming on board, courtesy of our transmission lines. We have special economic zones in Naivasha. We also have special economic zones in Dogokuri, in Kwale. And once those come on board, ideally, they'll attract investments and, of course, effectively increase the demand.
Okay, and we saw Keter Energy CS saying that he has cut the demand to 2,800 megawatts. What does this mean?
Well, not really cutting demand per se. As I said earlier, that's the installed capacity at the moment, where we have 2,700. Now, what is happening at the moment is because demand is now supposed to be accelerated, and that's what we are doing, to make sure that as we generate, we don't vent steam. That demand now will be facilitated by having the construction of high voltage transmission lines, which basically will address stability issues. By the way, in terms of demand, we're also doing lines which will evacuate power from the generation points. Another aspect which is important is about stability. Manufacturers are more interested in stability and quality of power. And that's why the lines we are doing will also address stability. For example, in Athi River, having energized Mombasa-Nairobi line, we are able to have stable power in Athi River for purpose of cement factories. The steel factories are also interested in stability of power. So all these conversation around stability and quality, vis-a-vis the demand, will be addressed. Electrification of SGR, for example, can take on board almost 300 megawatts. Once that is done again, the demand will definitely shoot up.
All right, so once all this is done, 2030, are Kenyans safe to say they'll enjoy cheap utility?
Absolutely. That one I'm very positive.
You're positive?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon and giving us insights when it comes to cheap power. Now, before I end the bulletin, I want to read for you an update from the CBK governor concerning the new currency. Now, there has been recalibration of the various machines used by banks and other institutions, also verification of machines and ATMs, which is currently ongoing. Most verification machines have been completed while ATMs are being serviced as well. Training of tellers has also been happening, and that has been ongoing in different banks. They've been training their tellers concerning the new currency. Also, the CBK governor has mentioned they've been in touch with other central banks, including the ESC, but also the rest of Africa beyond. They've asked them to apply the enhanced due diligence on any flows going in and out or out of jurisdiction. They are also offering cooperation, that is in ESC. Now, there's also been a public campaign on new generation currency. Now, that has been sentiments, briefing coming from the CBK Governor, Patrick Njoroge, concerning the new generation currency. And that is how we wrap up Inside Business, the last word in business. My name is Sarah Adam. Up next is Newscast with Shiksha Arora.